Hello and welcome to The Menu, Monocle Radio's food and drink program. I'm your host, Chiara. Coming up, we meet the founder of a restaurant championing a modern approach to Georgian cuisine.
How about this? How about we bring Georgian cuisine, but with a twist? Make Londoners curious about it, make them intrigued by what it is.
Also on the program, we're at Europe's biggest food supplier trade fair to get a preview of what will shape up the industry this year. Plus, we head to Sweden to hear about chef Daniel Berlin's Scandinavian comeback. All that here on The Menu on Monocle Radio. Sometimes, restaurateurs want to open a venture that reminds them of their roots, but other times it's a journey somewhere illuminating that reveals to them which cuisine should be the focus of their attention. For Diana Militski, that place was Georgia. Given her Eastern European heritage, she had a particular fondness for hearty dumplings and ingredients that reminded her of her childhood. But when it came to opening an ode to this cuisine back in London, she realised it was important not just to emulate tradition. Many wine lovers may by now be very familiar with Georgian orange bottles, and the nation's most popular dishes have begun travelling across the continent. But what London actually lacked was a fine dining take on a country's homely fare. Named after Georgia's most famous specialty, Kinkally brings a refined touch to these succulent dumplings, as well as drawing global inspiration for its small plates. I sat down with Diana to find out more about her project.
Being an Eastern European person, I grew up with family cooking home food mostly. So there were no Deliveroo's, there were no Uber Eats, there was none of that, right? And especially in Eastern European culture, it's very homey food, getting family around. It's quite heavy food too. But I think the first notion of dumplings was coming from my family dinners, which is like the pelmeni or the manti, all sorts of things. My mom even cooked Kinkally herself at some point. I don't think she remembers how to now, but she definitely did at some point. I was born in the States, and then I kind of grew up in between the US and Russia. I know, very strange combination, but it happens. I moved back when I was around 16 years old. I stayed in the States for another 5 years, but I just felt like London was calling me, whatever pathetic that sounds. But the first time I came to London, I was still working in the finance industry, nothing to do with hospitality whatsoever, except for me being a massive foodie and eating more than I should, somehow still staying in size S. Still don't know how.
Impressive.
My husband is very impressed by that skill, superpower. But then the first time I came to London, I just fell in love with it. And that was love at first sight. I wanted to stay there and leave. And kind of, if someone told me, look, you only have one city for the rest of your life, it would be London. Not that it's an easy place to live. It's definitely very expensive, but it's so inspirational, so dynamic. Keeps you on your toes. Anyways, so as I said, nothing with hospitality before, except me and my husband planning our weekends or holidays based on the food we want to try or the culture we want to see. And one of our trips, amongst many others, we were going to Georgia. It was kind of post-COVID times when we were on different vaccines, etc. And Georgia was one of the places that was on my radar for skiing for a long time. Really wanted to explore it. We went there, we stopped in Tbilisi, then we went to Gudauri, we traveled with my brother and my husband. And during the last couple of days in Tbilisi, we were enjoying, as usual, the Kinkallis and the beautiful food of Georgia in this super cute little place called Daphne. I don't know if you've been there.
Sadly not.
It's really cute. The concept is super easy. The first room is like super light, like palette colors, light blue, light pink, light yellow, focusing on Georgian food, but very like small menu, just Kinkally, a couple of soups, couple of salads. And then they had a back door that was leading to cocktails. So there was another room, no light, no windows, nothing at all, just like dark blue walls and just a neon cocktail sign. And that's it. And we were sitting at the table and immediately in our heads we were like, wait a second. London has everything, but there is Georgian cuisine, but it's not really that popular or not a lot of people know about it. And it's such a beautiful country, such a beautiful culture, such a deep and kind of, long historically standing cuisine that it's a shame that there's so much untold about this. We were never into classical food. We always like fusion, finding new cool twists, etc. And immediately in our head, we were like, okay, how about this? How about we bring Georgian cuisine, but in a with a twist, like put a twist on it, make Londoners curious about it, make them intrigued by what it is. Yes, we're not doing traditional cuisine, and we don't want to because it already exists. There are beautiful places in London that do the traditional cuisine. We just wanted to nudge the Londoners like us who are into food, who are into exploring, to say, look, there's something cool, something interesting that you've never tried before. It's just the beginning. We're giving you just different flavors, different sauces, different spices, different, I don't want to say shadows of traditional cuisine, but like a different view of it. And then at the end of the dinner, we always kind of nudge our guests further and say, okay, now if you liked it, you have to go with traditional Georgian cuisine to see the whole of it. So I think that's a kind of generalized idea of how it happened and what was the concept. But it all started back in Tbilisi in that small place that was just so cute and so minimalistic that inspired us that, okay, Georgian cuisine is not only, this very homey design, like quite rustic, quite national, traditional, but we started seeing in Tbilisi putting like this modern twist on things, like really cool hotels, really cool coffee places, really cool restaurants, small boutique restaurants. And we're like, okay, if they're doing that in Georgia, we can definitely bring it to London.
So let's dive into the actual Kinkally. Can you please tell us what the difference between a Kinkally and another dumpling, like the manti, for example, that you were mentioning before, is? And also, what is the perfect way to eat a Kinkally? Because I think I've made mistakes before. Trying to be a bit of a kind of purist / wanting to not waste any of it. I've actually tried to bite into the little handle.
Yes.
I don't think that's supposed to happen, is it?
You have sinned, but so have I. So the Kinkally is indeed quite a special type of dumpling. So originally, in general, dumplings are coming from China, the mountain regions of China. The closest one that I would love to probably compare to is not even manti, but the xiaolongbao. You've probably been to Din Tai Fung, plenty of those. Now, the main difference is the method of cooking. So xiaolongbao is going to be steamed, as most of the dim sums, shumai, etc., while Kinkallis, they're boiled. It gives you different texture. It gives you different kind of juiciness, I think. It's definitely harder to boil rather than steam because when you're steaming, it's just kind of sitting there on a basket. It's not moving, like it has its own fixed place. With Kinkally, and especially what we are trying to do, is our dough is less than 1 millimeter thickness. It's super, super thin to give you more of the flavor, the delicateness of the entire dumpling rather than you have a lot of dough in your mouth and a lot of meat too. So hence the whole reduction in size that happened to us. So when you're boiling, they're all kind of floating in whether it's a saucepan or a pasta boiler, and they break very easily. So for example, when we cook Kinkallis, we always cook extra. So even though the portion is 4, a 5 minimum would go into the saucepan because at least one of them usually would break. A lot of food waste, I agree with that. We're trying to work on that with different flour suppliers, seeing kind of who makes it better in terms of sturdiness of the dough. Now, in terms of eating, yes, there is a traditional way. The one thing I cannot stand to see, and I will never allow to see in my restaurant, is eating with a fork and a knife. That is a sin. That is like, the door is there. Please, leave. The traditional way is using the fingers, right? So I feel like if you wake me up at night, I will tell you this instruction with my eyes closed. You grab with your fingers by the tail, you scoop into the sauce. We do have the sauce. Traditionally, there isn't. You turn it upside down. You have a small bite into it to get all the soupiness and juiciness out. So many times the Kinkallis exploded and people just had like all the juiciness on their beautiful white shirt, but they were still happy because it means it's good quality. And then you can bite the dumpling, and the tail you're holding, traditionally you would put back on the plate. It's a tradition. After dinner, a mother would count who ate how many Kinkallis at the table. Now, I have seen, as I said, the dough that David does, our head chef, David Chilidze, is so amazing that you just can't resist it. Like, I remember the first time I tried his Kinkallis, I couldn't finish all of them. I took them home, another sin, I put them in the fridge. But then the next day when I ate them, like even cold, I still ate the whole of it. I think half and half of our guests actually kind of finish eating the dough versus not, and kind of keeping it as a tradition. I do agree that it's dough, and it's kind of, with sustainability trends and everything, it's bad to throw it in the bin, but at the same time it's a balance between tradition and modernizing. I think some things just has to stay the way they are, or at least they have a place to stay, and then it's up to you whether you stick to that tradition or not.
Despite the restaurant's name, there's plenty more than Kinkally that you do. So if you had to, I guess, pick a dish that really represents the kind of thing that you're trying to do with a restaurant, what would it be?
I don't even need to think about it. It's a baked aubergine and satsebili sauce with vanilla-infused mazzoni on the side. Again, you can wake me up at night. I will.
Exactly. Rolls off the tongue.
Goes off the tongue. I think it's become pretty much a classic on the menu. I'm 99% sure that every single table would take this baked aubergine. It's tender, it's soft, it's just the right amount of being cooked inside. And then it comes with this satsebili adjika sauce. So satsebili is based on tomato, adjika is just a mixture of different chilies, a very, very Georgian recipe. So it gives us a bit of a spiciness kick. But then on the side, unexpectedly, you have mazzoni. Mazzoni is a fermented Georgian yogurt. You can't buy it in London. We have to do it from scratch. So we bring those yeasts, etc. So we ferment it inside the house. And it's infused with vanilla, which gives us kind of a sweetness kick. But then there's a little trick. On top comes Svanetian salt. Salt coming from Svanetian region. Our chef has a very long-standing relationship with a small family over there. It's one of the hardest regions actually to get to. So all our salt, the Svanetian salt, is coming from there. It travels around the world with our guests, with me, with my husband, with our chef whenever we're traveling there, or anyone kind of passes by, which shows another kind of side of us. We literally have guests who text us saying, look, we're going to Georgia. Do you need anything? It's an amazing feeling. But that dish of the baked aubergine, having this spiciness, tenderness, sweetness, and saltiness, every day I can eat that dish, honestly. And it's going to stay there forever. We are changing the menu very soon. So we're going to do seasonal every 3 months update of the menu. But that dish, no matter the season, it's staying.
Diana Militski speaking to me at Midori House. This is the menu. Those who like to follow the food industry's accolades, awards and competitions will know that this week the French team won the prestigious Bocuse d'Or cooking competition in Lyon. But it wasn't the only major culinary event in town. Running alongside it was Sirha 2025, Europe's largest food supply, restaurant and hotel industry trade biennale. With more than 4,000 exhibitors, this is a great place to get a business-minded overview of what awaits in the sector. Our correspondent Michael Booth went along to hear what's cooking in French food and found an industry in flux, with some cherished traditions being challenged and new ideas being thrown in the mix.
If you love food, this has got to be the greatest food show on earth. There's everything conceivable connected to the restaurant and hotel industry here, from cutlery suppliers and packaging, uniforms, all the French luxury classics, caviar, truffles, foie gras. Behind me, professional waffle machines. Frying a delicious-looking duck breast. But I'm more interested in the future trends, because where's the innovation? And I think this might be what I'm looking for. It's something here called Oh La La Fish Different, plant-based seafood.
Oh La La, so we are alternative to seafood, pea protein.
So you have tiram salata, you have something that looks like smoked salmon.
Yes, exactly.
Can I taste a piece?
Of course. So you have a little bit of smokiness, and you have...
It's sweet, smoky. Maybe the texture is slightly rubbery, right?
Yes.
But apart from that, I guess it would be great, for example, in maki rolls and that kind of thing.
That's why we made these maki rolls with our tuna that we're presenting today, and we also have with salmon.
How long have you been making this?
The company's been created 3 years ago, and next year we're going to be UK.
And how are French customers reacting to these products?
It's been quite of a challenge in the beginning. Little by little, we really have these people that are really curious, and the market is growing.
Thanks very much. Thanks for the taste.
Thank you. Have a good day.
I think I might have made Ooh La La's fake smoked salmon sound worse than it was, and I don't think the guy appreciated the rubbery comment. It was okay, but fake smoked salmon is one thing. Next to Ooh La La was a stand from a Spanish company offering fake foie gras. This I had to try.
How do French people react to this?
I think it's mixed feelings, the younger generation are all about it because it's new, it's not like, there's no force-feeding animals. And the old generation is like, their values is like their core product from ever, so it's mixed feelings.
Can I try some?
Of course.
And what is it made from?
So the base is cashew nuts, there's cacao butter, coconut oil, some aromas, some spices, a lot of Porto, and a bunch of love.
And where do you produce?
Yeah, we produce right now in San Sebastian in Spain, in Basque Country.
Oh, okay. Well, that's absolutely delicious. Thank you. Frédéric Loeb of Loeb Innovation is one of the leading trend spotters within the French food industry. When I met with him in a slightly quieter corner of the absolutely gargantuan exhibition halls in Lyon, I asked for his top 3 trends at this year's event.
First one is about the end of tradition, coming back on a new modernity, new reinvention of fine cuisine will be not molecular cuisine, it's something about nature. I would say techno-nature cuisine. That's the first trend. Second trend is about the end of restaurant. Invention of something new is about food service, the invention of a new approach of food service. There's been people, especially in Anglo-Saxon countries, but it's coming also in Latin countries, even in
remote
France.
kitchens.
Remote kitchens, even in France. There's been tapas culture. There's been a new way of eating food in small portions. There's been not bad quality food. Take care. I would not say there's been a new version is not a bad food, but a new approach of small portions. Third is about and sustainability.
I mean, walking around, I've seen many stalls offering plant-based substitutes. How do the French regard this?
Beginning, it looks like very strange. French is a place of meat, especially in Lyon, is the capital of saucisson. And definitely, now there are some solutions that are quite better than meat.
I tried one today, a beef substitute. It was amazing, that product. Have you tasted it?
Yes, because we give them the prize of innovation for the Sirha.
Yeah. Can I go back just to your first innovation? A natural technical, did you say?
First is techno-nature.
Techno-nature. Describe that, because it's true, walking around, there's no molecular gastronomy here.
Molecular was perhaps three Sirha ago, 6 years beyond. Now we come back to tradition, especially French tradition. A new trend is about to reinvent new molecular approach. Doesn't mean not molecular with chemical things, but to reinvent the texture, reinvent the taste, reinvent the different the smell and things and the senses in the mouthfeel, a new mouthfeel, but with high tech, with natural product. The young generation is preparing something more sophisticated with the same raw products, but transcended by technology.
The fake steak Frédéric Loeb and I talked about, which won the Innovation Award this year, was from a company called Planted. It was the best meat substitute I've ever tasted. That's one vision of the near future, but in the hardware hall, I came across another glimpse. United Robotics Group.
It is a German company with a subsidiary in France, in the US and Spain as well.
What are robots going to do for the catering and hotel industry in the future? What are they already doing?
They are already actually replacing all the difficult and, let's say, low added value tasks for the hospitality personnel, I would say. So here we're presenting the robots that are able to transport dirty dishes, food, whatever you have to carry around the restaurant or a hotel.
So is this mostly for, I'm guessing, like hotel breakfast situation, that kind of thing?
One of our main customers are hotels, and actually indeed for the breakfast service, but we're also working with even traditional restaurants and with fast food restaurants, and now we are even expanding the hotel use cases to delivering the room service.
And what do you say to people like me who will come along and say, oh, but you're losing the human touch?
For the restaurant part, we basically have no customers that are actually using the robot to deliver the meal to the table. They're delivering the meals to the strategic points of the area, or for the busing, which is to be honest, it's not really where we communicate the most with the customers. So I say that, when you use them wisely and when you analyze your operations and see where the best to optimize, you don't have to replace the customer service, and it's even not our expectation. We work with a lot of traditional restaurants.
And can you give some idea of how much it would cost if I'm a hotel owner to have one of these robots operating in the breakfast area in the morning?
In terms of price, starting from 12,000 euros to buy one robot. You can also rent the robot with additional, let's say, support services for example, 420 euros per month.
Lyon is, of course, the heartland of French gastronomy, the country that invented chauvinism, so I was surprised by the large number of foreign exhibitors at Sirha. That was one thing I wanted to ask Luc Debuchon, the general manager of the event, about, but I was also curious about how these traditional large-scale trade fairs are doing post-COVID.
Before COVID, we were, probably one of the most powerful food service exhibitions in the world. I think after COVID and now this year, we're going to be the first one in the world.
Is it always this international? I've seen stalls from Italy and Japan and even Great Britain.
Yeah, it's always been international, I would say, since the past 15 years, but we increased, and it's a will. I mean, it's our vision, to have a powerful international exhibition. So yes, our target is to reach something like 30% of international exhibitors, and we are around 25%.
How much of that is saying, hey, France, we've still got it? And how much is genuine interest in what the rest of the world has to offer?
I don't know. I belong to a generation which is not probably have the same mind than the generation before. And I don't see the world, in opposition. I mean, I see the world as a more common sharing, and value sharing,
That was Luc Debuchon, the general manager of the Sirha Biennale. Both he and Frédéric Loeb talked about how the French food industry was in a crisis. The country's economy is in a parlous state. But they both seemed genuinely optimistic that French cuisine will endure in some form or another. For Monocle in Lyon, I'm Michael Booth.
Now it's time for the week's top food and drink headlines. Here is Monocle's Maisie Ringer.
London Bagel Museum, the bakery chain behind Korea's bagel craze, is making bold moves to expand. Since opening in 2021, the brand has wowed locals and tourists with its British-inspired decor and diverse bagel flavours. In 2023, LBM posted 36 billion won in revenue and a 12.6 billion won profit, with its Jamsil branch alone hitting $1 million in sales. Now, with plans for global growth, the brand is securing investments, launching pop-ups and expanding online sales. Young people in France are turning away from blue cheese, Roquefort. The strong blue cheese from southern France has long been a chef's favourite for its bold flavour, but sales have slumped from 19,000 tonnes in 2007 to just 14,000 tonnes in 2023. In a bid to reverse this trend, the Confédération Générale de Roquefort is launching a unique ad campaign to reintroduce the cheese to younger generations, highlighting its versatility in snacks, aperitifs and recipes. Japan has taken home gold for the second consecutive time at the biennial Pastry World Cup in Lyon. This year's competition challenged teams of specialists in chocolate, ice and sugar to create 3 desserts representing their country in just 5 hours. Japan's winning entry was a lemon, pear and marigold granita and a spinning top-shaped apricot dessert. France took home silver, whilst Malaysia made history with its bronze, impressing judges with a citrus and apricot frozen dish. Those are the food and drink headlines. Now back to Chiara.
Thanks, Maisie. You're listening to The Menu. And now to Brantevik, a small fishing village in southern Sweden. It's here that renowned chef Daniel Berlin has opened his latest venture, Vin. The 4-time winner of Chef of the Year in Sweden used to run his Michelin-starred Daniel Berlin Krog nearby, but shuttered its doors in 2020. This is his comeback project, with a similar farm-to-table ethos and renewed ambition. Monocle's Sachin Obaid takes us inside this extraordinary restaurant to explore Berlin's journey back to fine dining, his philosophy and the vision behind his new culinary destination.
It feels great to be back. If you asked me 3 years ago what I'm going to do, I would say I don't know. But just to be able to open this place up, fill it with happy people and fantastic team and guests. It feels just amazing. It gives me a lot of energy. You can start fresh again. So for me, it's been very important to have, some years away from what I'm doing. Also to actually see what's important. But now it's just great to be back. It feels fantastic. I'm so happy.
At the heart of Vin is Chef Berlin's commitment to sourcing the finest ingredients and crafting unforgettable dining experiences. From the local bounty of southern Sweden to the pristine seafood of Norway, every element of the menu tells a story.
Usually if we talk about like meat and vegetables, it's local, like very close by. All the wild game in the south of Sweden is very, very, it's a huge hunting area. We have a lot of wild game. Also wild birds during the season, the scallop and the langoustine and the cockles that you had today, yes. Sourced in Norway. I never had, in the old restaurant, we didn't have really the connection to that type of suppliers. But now with Tom, who is the new head chef, he came from Malmö, so he had that connection, and so it's been more easy for us to be able to handle that here. I like to have some type of, connection to everyone that I work with, and it doesn't have to be only the produce. It can also be the materials, the chairs, or the lighting, or I want to know people. If people should be involved here, and we put so much time and effort into what we're doing, I want to know that the people who create things for us are doing the same.
Chef Berlin's culinary philosophy is deeply rooted in tradition, yet he constantly seeks innovative ways to elevate classic techniques. One such example is his signature quail dish, which beautifully reflects his respect for heritage and his meticulous attention to detail. It's a dish I had the pleasure to experience firsthand.
This technique to mature wild game, especially, both, deers and things like that, but also then birds. Usually they have a lot of gamey flavor. So like a trick from the hunters before was always to, add, something sour. It could be like sour milk, or in our case, it's creme fraiche. And usually also with the smaller birds, you usually cook them over like, high heat, open fire cooking, which I love. But with a very delicate bird like you had today with the quail, it can also be fantastic when you just poach it. And the idea is we use the skins to create these small crisps. The fat from the bird, we do the sauce. We poach the bird in its own broth, in quail broth, seasoned with seaweed and especially lemon thyme. And then we also serve to the bread, we have the broth and we have the confit of the legs. But I think it's something beautiful with poached birds, because usually people don't do that anymore. But I like it, especially a tender, nice bird like a quail, for example. I really love the simple techniques that can make food go from, something very basic to something fantastic. How we serve things, temperatures, textures. I really want to dive more into that. Sweden as a gastronomic country, we are quite poor when it comes to food traditions. It's not a fantastic history in food. And here we have so many different small places opening up. We have the bakery, we have, the producers of the eggs, so, everything. And the idea was to try to create some type of community where hopefully this restaurant can be like an engine to many new places coming up. And for me to have the locals in, like something to be proud of. Usually many restaurants close here over the winter, but for me I wanted to really have, an open restaurant all year round. And I think people want to be proud of that. They know that we will have customers coming from far away, but then you can also be, really proud of this place even if you're just a neighbor, and maybe if you just come here and eat in the food and wine bar one time per year, but it's something beautiful with that. And I think a good restaurant is a mix of everything. What is really, really good for us is that we can also use the produce in the whole house. So now we had, for example, on the menu tonight, we have a lamb. We had one lamb last week, fantastic. But then we can serve that there, but it's only today, and then it will be gone. And I love that, We are chefs and we should be able to be, creative, and it can also be, when everything is always like this, exact and always the same, for me it can be a little bit boring. I want to have that, Tonight we have 5 lobsters coming in. Okay, let's put it on the menu. We are chefs, we are professionals. We should be able to cook on the highest level.
Thanks, Sashin. And that's all for this edition of The Menu. Remember that we are back with a new episode again on Friday at 2000 London time. That's at midday in San Francisco. Also, don't forget to tune into our spin-off show Food Neighborhoods for a tour of some of the world's tastiest destinations. I am Carimella. This program was produced by Monica Lillis and our sound engineer was Flynn Simons. Thanks for listening, and until next week.